Ah!
Dude's stoked.
All right. Hey, welcome here. I got my man Aaron Edgar in the house. Aaron's a fantastic drummer, like so passionate, so much drive, so much focus, so much dedication, putting everything he's got into the art and skill of drumming and helping drummers. Aaron, thanks for being here.
Man, thanks for...
I'm a big fan of yours. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're pretty much putting out new material every day at this point?
Yeah.
Yeah, every day. Yeah, I see your Instagram stuff, your Twitter, your YouTube stuff. It's great. And, you know, so tell me a little bit about yourself, Aaron. Like, what got you into drumming?
You know, it's actually interesting you say that. It's weird how I got into drumming. When I was younger, I didn't really have a lot of interests, you know? I was pretty much, I would play video games with my buddies and like ride my bike, and that was about it. But then like grade 7 hit and we had to choose either art or band. And I didn't particularly have an interest in either of these things, but it was like, okay, I can either have some guy teach me how to draw a bowl of fruit or I can play an instrument. And at my school, all we really had was drums or the rest of the instruments. Like there was no sort of like guitars or basses or anything like that. It was just, you know, clarinet, flute, saxophone, drums. It seemed pretty clear to me which the coolest choice was, so I kind of just jumped on that. And that's actually my entire start into music. It didn't come from any like, oh, you know, I saw this and I wanted to play that, or I heard this and I wanted to do that. It was just like, oh, this is like the least lame option. But then it turned into my favorite thing ever, like very quickly.
Awesome, yeah. Well, generally, like, kids that choose percussion are the slackers of the band.
Hey, man.
Was that you?
Not at all, actually. Well, the thing was, is it came really easily to me. Like, I had lessons right from the beginning, so I was just, it was something I enjoyed, so I stuck into it and I really studied, so I really understand how the rhythms work and all that kind of stuff. So, I don't know. In my own way, I was a bit of a slacker, but it was just because I overachieved outside of school, that the school version of what I had to do for band was always really easy. I think I had like a 98% average through all the school with it, so.
Yeah. So when did you come to the point where you realized that this is something you wanted to do with the rest of your life, like full-time, serious, you know, make a living? And how did you get started? Like, what got you kick-started into this crazy career of yours?
You know, there was like a couple of determining moments for that. Like, you know, in high school, everybody's kind of trying to figure out what they want to do, and same sort of thing. I still didn't really have any interests other than, you know, I loved playing music and, you know, video games, which I didn't think you could make a living at, which is oddly enough, you can actually do that nowadays. But like back then I didn't see that coming. So it's like, huh, my drum teacher, he makes a living playing music, and that's something that comes super easily to me just because I have a passion for it. So I was like, huh, well, life's solved, great, you know? So I get out of high school, I took on a couple of jobs, and then like literally about 2 years past that, I graduated in 2000, and in 2002 I'm sitting there like stocking shelves at Princess Auto, and I realized, like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
I thought about it for about 30 seconds, realized I could teach for double what I was making, put my shit down, and never had a job since.
Okay, yeah. Wow, great. That's so cool. Like, did you grow up with some buddies that were in band? Like, did you jam with some friends? How did you get the real bug for? Was it playing live, or was it teaching, or what was it that really?
You know, I kind of tried to explore everything when I was younger. Like, I tried to play with as many musicians as I could when I was a kid, like as many bands. I almost took it as like a badge of pride, like how many projects I could sort of play around with at the same time. And for a while, I kind of really lived that. But the things that really inspired me were just like, because I came at it from a point of like education, really, because again, I fell into it from school. So it was like, I loved the guys in the DVDs, like watching Marco Miniman just like blow my mind with his DVDs, or Thomas Lang and Steve Smith. So it's like seeing that stuff and seeing that those guys were exploring things that I'd never heard before. Like if you listen to the radio or even listening to more adventurous music like metal and stuff, those guys usually are pulling out things on their DVDs that are just like even more insane. And for whatever reason, that is kind of what I gravitated to. And you know, this is kind of the weirdest thing. Like, you never really like think about that kind of stuff until you're a little bit past it. But like, that's what kind of just sparked my desire to start the whole YouTube thing. Because like I saw online, nobody was really doing videos on that kind of really weird techie stuff when I started doing that. It was like 2010 or 2011 or something. So I was just like, huh, well, I'm gonna make that. And then like, you know, you fast forward and now it's like, wow, it's like my job is literally
thousands of followers, and
yeah,
and it's really taking off. When I watch your videos, it's almost like I'm talking to like a techie, nerdy computer guy, because I can't understand some of the language you're using. Like, what are some of the the new phrasings and things you're doing on the drums that you know beginner drummers don't really hear or know about?
Well, that was sort of like even part of I guess my bug to get into starting with that stuff is like I wanted to explore all the crazier stuff. Like you're probably talking about things more like the rhythmic illusion side of things with like metric modulations and like crazy time signatures and all of that kind of fun stuff. So it's like these are sort of like the icing on the cake for music. They're the stuff that like, you know, you pull out sort of once in a while, but you know, exploring down that rabbit hole is very infinite. Like you can take that way further than musically sounds like anything, and that just like fascinates the shit out of me. Like, it's crazy what you can do.
So what are you doing? Like you've got this like project Third Ion.
Yeah.
And how's that music coming together? And got a new album coming up?
Yeah, it'll probably be a while for the new album. We're about halfway through writing it, but like everybody's pretty busy because like everybody's in other bands. Like my bass player plays with Mother. And just, yeah, like everybody's got like tons of stuff on the go and nobody lives in the same cities. So the way that music really materializes is whenever we find time, myself and the guitar player just basically, he camps over at my studio for about 4 days and we just bounce ideas back and forth. It's kind of like we sort of figure out the idea of guitar notes that we like. And then the fun thing is we have very opposite strengths. He's really good with song forms and he's really good with all the melodic things, and I have kind of the rhythm weirdo thing going on. So it's fun that we take notes that we like and then I usually twist them up in a way where sometimes he doesn't even really know where we're going with it yet at this point, but he kind of just sort of trusts that I've got a bigger vision with how I'm gonna either complement or contrast that on the drums. And it's actually basically a back and forth of that. We take notes, we twist them up, and then I find a way to kind of, like I said, complement or contrast. So we have, like our music usually flows in ways that doesn't sound very straightforward, you know? Like we try to have lots of rhythmic twists and metric shifts and all that kind of stuff. So it really just evolves that way. But, yeah, I don't know, he and I work really fast together too. So we usually have like 20 minutes of music banged out in like 4 days-ish.
Nice. It's all original?
All original, yeah. We have actually recorded 2 covers, but we didn't release either of them.
Okay, yeah. Nice. Like drum and bass stuff. Have you ever done any of that? Like, what genres have you? It sounds like you're doing a bit of everything. You've got the double kick pedal going. You've got some funk stuff.
Yeah. Well, I did because I mean, like I said, when I just decided I wanted to do music full time back in like 2002. Part of that decision was freelancing. So I've freelanced completely all over the map. Like every style, like jazz, a little bit of Latin stuff, very rarely, but a little bit. Like lots of funk, lots of rock, tons of country that's like, I don't know, you know, eventually you sort of realize it's just like kind of find what you're most passionate about and kind of dive more wholeheartedly into that, which is why now I'm kind of just doing Third Ion and all like the educational stuff, you know?
Okay, yeah.
But actually circling back to the D&B thing, I do have a project that hasn't done anything in a while called Drum versus Bass with Marty Thiessen. And yeah, we're actually going to be getting that back together soon. So
I want to be a part of that project.
It's actually just the two of us.
But yeah, but some vocals, some rapping.
Hey man, that's the fun of it is it's a duo. The thing that's really cool about that is like he plays with, he's got these crazy looper rigs going on where like between the two of us, we create just completely improvised song forms on the fly. That's what's fun about that project. It's like, there's no point in rehearsing it because it's never the same.
Never the same, right? That's so cool.
It's fun.
That's wicked. So tell me a little bit, like instinctively, you've got like this crazy background. Like your dad was Indian.
Actually, my biological father was, yeah.
Yeah, and you're adopted.
Yeah.
And how did that all like? You know, knowing that your dad is Indian, like I'm like Mediterranean kind of thing. Like usually when I get on a flute or a clarinet, I sound like I'm like a snake charmer. Everything kind of comes out the same.
Yeah.
You find that's with yourself, like you have certain rhythms in you that you feel like are you know in the core of your soul or you're in your DNA.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that. It's because I never really grew up around that kind of stuff at all. But like, again, I gravitated to all this weird stuff. And like using lots of quintuplets and septuplets generally comes out with that kind of sound because they sound sort of alien for most Western type music. But yeah, I don't know if it's because I've got like the 50% East Indian in my blood there, but that's definitely like been core to my playing for sure. And it's what I kind of gravitate to. Yeah.
Like, what were some of your idols growing up as far as musicians, bands, drummers?
Oh man, probably one of the first ones that I was like super obsessed with would have been Steve Smith. I was really into his stuff. Like the first Vital Tectones record just like changed my life. Like yeah, totally, completely. So like there was that. Super into Meshuggah, Opeth. Animals as Leaders are really dope. Like yeah, Tool is another one that was a big influence on me. So yeah. Yeah, I kind of just like, I don't know, I gravitated towards the stuff that wasn't so straightforward. It just, I don't know, we hear enough of that just like in the background always, right?
Yeah, right on. Let me ask you, how many snares do you own? Because like your studio, like tell me, you got this crazy studio at home, and it sounds amazing. You've got it all looking like it's rigged up. What goes into your studio? How much have you got invested in as far as equipment and sound equipment? Because it sounds really dope, and it's like, from what I could tell, you've got so much going on there. Talk about your studio a little bit.
Yeah, my I've got a kind of a problem when it comes to gear. There's easy like $500,000 worth of stuff in there. Like I have a full-fledged recording studio. I've currently got 45 snare drums, and there's 7 more on the way.
45.
That's right, 4 or 5. Yeah,
that is crazy.
There's I think 100.
You know what? You should open up your own shop. It's just like a museum.
I could see it as a museum, yeah.
And you could probably charge people to come in and check out all your gear and don't sell anything.
Yeah. Probably could, yeah. Charge like admissions on like Thursdays or something.
Come in, like pet the snare drums and So 45 snares, more coming in. Tell me about the gear because it's like Christmas over here.
Yeah, dude, no, it's crazy. So like. Yeah, I don't know. So my snare addiction has almost taken on a life of its own. Like you said, you see in my posts that there's just like, I mean, there's a wall of them behind me, which is, that was actually like me brainstorming how the hell am I going to top this green tentacle thing when we ripped out the wall in my studio, because it was originally 2 rooms. And I was like, I need it to be more intense than that somehow. And I was like, the only way that I'm going to possibly do that is by just
showing off.
Yeah, totally. So now it's like, I don't know, it's just, it's perpetuated itself now. Like lots of companies want to be a part of that, right? So, yeah, we get lots of gear coming in that way.
Connected with Sonar drums, you know what I mean? Like you're endorsed by tons of companies, but I guess like Sonar was one of the big ones that came through for you.
Sonar was actually my very first endorsement. That was like 11 years ago now. Yeah, that came from just. I don't know, just meeting the guys through clinics and stuff. Like, you know, like every time a clinic comes through, there's going to be, at the very least, the artist relations manager from that drum company for the region anyway is going to be there, right? So, you know, from early on, I kind of met these guys, just started talking to them, and just, you know, eventually it just made sense, right? Because I was immediately out of high school, pretty much already gigging professionally. I had a ton of students, was doing a little bit, I mean, because I was doing the freelancing thing, and at the time I was doing more country stuff just because, you know, it paid, and it was sort of profile stuff. So like, you know, guys are signed, it's like, you want to get on that, looks great on the resume. So I had all this kind of stuff going on, and they saw that I was very clearly, absolutely obsessed with Sonar, so it made sense. So like back then, I think, what year was that? I guess 2007, they gave me just kind of like an entry-level endorsement, and yeah, we just sort of grew over the time. Yeah.
So currently, like how many, like you want to throw out some names out there, like who's endorsing you and who are you endorsing? And
yeah, there's
there's some stuff like I've never even heard of, like some name brands of equipment that it's like, wow, that sounds cool. I've never.
Yeah, well, some of the weirder stuff, the stuff you may not have heard of before is like Sweet Spot Clutches is one. They're actually a Canadian company. They're out in BC. When you see all those crazy like screw spikes on all my cymbals and like the weird hi-hat clutches and stuff, that's them. Yeah, yeah. So there's that. There's this is actually a stupidly long list to the point where I should probably grab my phone and like check with it. But like, yeah. Actually, give me one sec. Yeah, that's right here.
Grab your phone because I'm pretty impressed, man.
I don't want to like forget anybody.
By what you're doing, and not that I want to get endorsed by any of these companies, but just I wanted to kind of let our audience know, like, hey, how it could happen, and I think from what you're saying, you just got to get out there, talk to the right people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, show them that you're passionate and you this is something you want to do and you're serious about it, and see if they want to come on board for the ride.
Well, that's the thing is like it's. You know, this is a business of people, you know? The more, like, I'm sure you've heard lots of people say that old cliche, it's like, it's all about who you know, and it's totally true, right? Like, these guys for endorsements and stuff, like, they get blind emails and calls, probably like 10 to 100 a day, depending on the size of a company, right? Yeah. So it's like, probably don't even get a chance to look at all those. Whereas if they actually know someone, you're out at the clinics, you're shaking hands, you're meeting these people, and they're seeing that you're actually doing stuff, right there, you've already got a huge step ahead of anybody that's just cold calling something. So the best thing you can do is like, actually do stuff. Like, it's one thing to just, say, hey, I'm a great drummer, and then it's like, what do you got to show for yourself? It's like nothing, right? Yeah. That's not going to get anywhere. That's like the same thing as just like cold calling one of these companies. But if you're actually like doing stuff that's good and you have a relationship with these people in the first place, then it's, a lot easier.
Get your face out there, and I think with the videos, like getting on YouTube and just playing the drums and building an audience, I think that'd be a great way today to get started.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely,
10 years ago, 12 years ago, it was more like meeting the right people, but today it's like, hey, like check this out. Check out my channel. I've got a great fan base. I've got all these people subscribing, and I'm helping people. Learn how to play the drums. I've got tons of students. And
dude, that's exactly it. Is like, now we live in an age where the internet has just like globalized everything. Like you said, like back in like the 80s or whatever, you just couldn't, Like if you wanted to meet these people, your only opportunity was when they were there at a clinic, or you have to fly somewhere that these people are, right? Yeah. Like you'd get maybe an opportunity to go to the NAMM show if you happen to have an endorsement. It's like then you can meet all these people there, but it's like it's once a year. Now it's like you can literally contact anybody from this in like 10 seconds globally, Not even, Yeah, so with that, like, putting out stuff is the best thing that you can do. And the best thing I would say on top of that is, like, really putting out stuff that's you, The stuff that, like, isn't going to help and isn't going to work in the long run is when you're trying to do what someone else is doing. Like, if you see a video, it's just like, oh, that's cool, I could do that, and then you go try and copy that video, or just, like, tossing up covers or whatever. It's like, everybody does that. And I'm not trying to, like, knock covers or any of these types of videos, but, like, if you're really just doing the thing that you feel is coolest, like forget what anybody else is doing. It's like, what could the coolest possible thing that I could do be? And then just start making that over and over and over again, and like making that better and trying to improve yourself. That's the type of stuff where people actually see like honesty in it, and it's like, oh, this guy's actually doing something, versus, oh, this guy's just copying that guy, this guy's doing that thing, it's just seen that 100 times before. Oh, this guy's actually got some passion in there, Yeah. I feel like that honesty is really, really, I don't know, it just like, it comes through the camera, Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. So, like, what kind of voice, do you have a beat in your head when you're creating new rhythms? Do you, like, vocalize it? Do you scat it? Like, how do you come up with all these crazy rhythms? Like, do you think about it, write them down? How do you create something original?
There's like, that's kind of like a deeper question on sort of like, how do you channel creativity? But like, there's a number of ways that you sort of can get that kind of stuff. For me, because I've just studied always, and I've obsessively write. Like when I was younger, even when I was first starting, it's like any cool idea I had, I'd write it down, which got me really good at writing notation and being able to remember stuff. Back then, I didn't have an easy way to record stuff, so it was either program it on like, I don't know.
Drum machine.
Yeah, right? Or like try to remember it or write it down, and you can actually catalog it. So from very young, I got into that and got really good at doing that. So it's at a point now where it just not really any different than words for me. Like I see music, I understand it, I don't need to hear it, I can write it down and know exactly what it sounds like and is, right? So for me, half the time I'll just write ideas and explore things visually until I find something I like and I can see how the rhythms work together and, you know, jump into it that way. Okay. Sometimes I hear stuff, like I remember even once hearing a squirrel barking this weird shit in my yard. I was like, that was amazing. So I went and notated what he was barking and wrote stuff off that. Yeah. Actually, I think that beat is in a Modern Drummer magazine somewhere, and I never told anybody where it came from.
Sweet. So tell me some of the things you do. You're writing for Modern Drummer. You're teaching. You're connected with Drumeo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so I got a number of things on that sort of range. I've been with Drumeo for about 5 years now. I do Sunday live with them every week for that whole time. So it's like I think I actually have the most content of anybody in Drumeo, which is kind of hilarious.
That's impressive.
Yeah, we've been doing that a long time now. So. Yeah, I've been doing that with them. We've actually got a new kind of show coming out with them as well, which I can't talk a ton about, but it's actually going to be really fun and a little bit more creative, I guess. Yeah. But so there's that going on. There's the Modern Drummer. I've been writing for them every month, doing videos.
New book coming out?
New book's already out, Progressive Drumming Essentials. Yeah, came out. It was supposed to be released at NAMM, but Hal Leonard actually like tossed it out a little bit early, so we got it out since I think early December or late October.
Yeah, we've got some copies on order, so we're going to have some here for our students and
yeah, man.
Customers is great. Really excited about that.
Yeah.
And you've also worked on other projects, educational, like self-published stuff?
Totally, yeah. I used to write for Drums Etc. magazine. I was editor-in-chief of their magazine even for a couple of years after I started writing for them. I have another book out that I self-published. I'm doing this new show called Drum Break that I'm just entirely self-producing, where I'm taking, like, for example, my first episode was with Ryan from Devin Townsend Band Project. Sorry, we broke down a song together. My next one is with John Tempesta. I'm in the middle of creating that one at the moment. Then I got Sean Reinert, like ridiculous guys coming online for this. So that's a ton of fun. This year I'm going to be doing a lot more clinics too. I got a clinic tour coming up in China. I got another one in the UK.
No kidding, man.
Yeah, super stoked about that.
Like, we always see each other at the NAMM show. Like, you know, every year we'll be down there. I'll run into you on the corner of the street or after the show. It's like, hey, Aaron.
Yeah, man.
Like, do you meet these people there? Like, where do you kind of get connected with so many, you know?
Yeah, that actually, like, most of those connections happened at the NAMM show, with the exception to Drumeo. Drumeo happened because I was actually their first satellite instructor, and they wanted somebody Canadian to sort of take on like an outside of Drumeo HQ show. So they found that I was doing some kind of unique stuff at the time on the internet, and they were like, hey, want to come do this? So that's how that happened. And from that, actually, when I went to the NAMM show, I approached Drums Etc. just totally cold. It was funny. A friend of mine was like, hey man, I just wrote this thing. And in the back of my mind, I was like, fuck, I could do that. So I just literally just walked up to them. I was like, hey, I should write an article for you guys. I'm also a Canadian drummer. And they're like, cool. So I literally wrote an article on the plane ride home, submitted it, and that's how the Drums Etc. job happened, which after having a few years of that under my belt, went and met the Modern Drummer guys again at the NAMM show. Right. Yeah, so it's like, all of that panned out just from like meeting these people there. And again, still with that underlying theme of, again, like I was saying earlier, you gotta just be creating stuff. So it's like, it's one thing to go to the NAMM show, but if you don't have anything to show for yourself, the connections won't mean anything, right?
Wow. Hey, so like, how much time are you putting into this? It sounds like you're just kind of going crazy, you know, from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed. It's drums, it's videos, it's content, it's writing. What's your schedule like? Like, do you practice? How do you fit time into practice? Like, you have to, you know, keep discipline. Like, I gotta put this much time in. I gotta, you know, work the muscles. And
well, I gotta actually like schedule practice. Like at this point, like you said, like that basically does describe my day. I pretty much wake up at about like 6 or 7 every day, get up, make coffee, and then just go. And then by the time I'm about ready to pass out, that's when I call it quits. So. Yeah. That's literally my everyday, and other than going to the NAMM show, I've not once taken a vacation since that 2002.
No kidding.
Yeah. Wow. Well, it's just like, I don't know, it doesn't really feel like work when it's what's fun for you, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
so
how I feel about this business. It's like, wow, this is a lifestyle. This is great. This is rock and roll. I'm living the dream.
Exactly, man.
You're obviously, you know, doing that and feeling that way.
Totally, yeah.
That's
so
great. For
me, I try and like schedule it in blocks. Like it's tough, like bigger picture organization is something I'm currently working on, but right now I've got it in a place where I schedule it so it's like I have a little bit of practicing, then I kind of split up my hours throughout the week so I make sure it all gets in there. You know, it's easier for me to see that when there's so many projects on the go, like constantly having to have Drumeo content, Modern Drummer content, the drum break thing, another project I can't talk about yet, like all this stuff is just like constantly ongoing, you know? So I find like straight up scheduling it is the only way to actually make sure you stay on top of it. And then with that, the only way to actually get it in is basically like, oh yeah, from when I'm up till, then like 11. Okay. All right, repeat tomorrow. Yep.
Is there some go-to kind of routines or, you know, rudiments that you work on, like on a daily basis, like a must practice?
Actually, it's funny you mention that. I've been trying a really minimalist approach for practicing recently. About the past 7 months, I'd only been working on one thing. And it was something that I'd been playing for years already. It was the beat from Van Halen off the first Third Ion record. And it's just like, it never really felt like it sat right when I was playing it. So I literally spent over half a year only practicing that and trying to practice from almost a meditative state. I know it seems hippie and weird as shit, but like literally trying to get so relaxed with zero tension in the body that it comes out effortlessly and sounds perfect. It's really, really hard at first, but the weirdest thing is that I found after spending that much time on something so singular, the amount of effect it had on everything in my playing overall was crazy. Wow, because I took it to a much more masterful place. Now I still wouldn't say it's where I wanted.
Down,
oh, dude.
Cleaned it up.
Yeah, there was months where I was spending it.
Cleaned it up, like just really understood every little ghost note or.
Totally. It's at the point where it's like there's a few notes. Actually, there's specifically 5 notes on the bass drum that I get tension in my legs whenever they happen. And it's like I'm working on just removing all of that. Wow. And it's like until it feels, because I mean, here's the thing. when you play something that you've got totally in the bag, it feels like nothing, right? Like when you're playing a beat that you don't have to think about, like even if it's just a 4 on the floor, you can do that in your sleep, you can do it while you're talking over it. I feel like if it's not there, I don't have it yet, you know? And it feels like that when I play it. Like when I get up and I play it live with the band, there's a tension to it, and that like amplifies in those type of situations. So I'm trying to make it to a point where it feels like 4 on the floor feels to me. And I've just been like plugging away at that one thing because it still doesn't feel that way, right? So like, I don't know.
And are you recording yourself as you're kind of practicing it and hearing it back and forth? Or?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Most of it's a feel thing. Like, I understand when a note's not 100% there. Now, I live in a recording studio, so it's super easy to check my work, so I sort of know, you know, when I'm off, and I can be really honest with myself about that. But, like, it literally is me sitting there and just, like, zenning out with headphones on and a click. Or not even a click, and really focusing on how each beat feels into the next, making sure I feel the rests appropriately. That entire song is built in quintuplets, so it's like, you know how we feel 16th notes, and we don't really need to, like, count all the notes in between, like 1, and A2, and A3, and A4, and A1. We can feel all the different points of a 16th note pretty easily because we've grown up in a place where we're used to hearing that. It's like, I want to make sure all of my quintuplet notes, even with the ridiculous rests that are all over that song, feel exactly as solid as my 16th notes too, you know?
Okay.
So,
yeah. Like, obviously you work with a metronome.
Yeah.
Have you ever just plugged into a metronome and lived your life with time in your head?
You know, I remember when I was a lot younger, I remember reading, I forget which drummer it was, somebody was talking about he went to sleep with a metronome on. I feel like I tried that like one night and was like, this is annoying as shit, and just like cut it out from there.
I've tried that. Like, I think Sunfest, I was working Sunfest as a volunteer. Remember Sunfest? It's,
yeah, that's a long time
ago. It was a long time ago, and it was kind of crazy, but I was, you know, just getting into drumming, and I would have a metronome in my, you know, me playing in my earbuds, and I'd just be like dancing and rapping and just have a great time. I did that for about a couple weeks, and walking too. I just count out as I'd walk. Like,
oh yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2,
you know,
3, 4, 5, 6, or going 1, 2, 3, 4,
yeah.
5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, you know. Yeah.
That's actually a funny thing you mentioned that, because like I go for like constant walks when it's when it's not like Winnipeg winter, but like around my area, and I actually use like the pace of my legs when I'm like working on rhythms and stuff. So like I'll be singing quintuplet stuff to myself or tapping, and I probably look like a lunatic, but like
skipping through the park.
Dude, totally. You can use your walk as like a metronome unless you got a limp or something.
Yeah, right on. Cool. I'm like, we're sitting beside some drum sets. I'm thinking we should get our drum faces on. You know, chop some heads a little bit.
Cool.
What do you think? Is it time?
Sure, man. Let's do that.
How are we going to start this? Should I cut into a groove and you just jump in?
Yeah, I love it.
Thanks for joining us today at Quest Musique, and please subscribe and like our channel. Also follow Aaron Edgar on his social media everywhere, YouTube and Twitter and Instagram. He's out there, he's everywhere. And yeah, so let's do it. Let's do it together. Music is a weapon of the future.